uh, named Elena Kelly Pegg, is a gender fluid, queer, neurodivergent Colombian adoptee. As an emerging printmaker and book artist, their work navigates the intersections of their identities. And I will now hand it over to Charlie.
Great. Hello. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate this opportunity to just kind of talk through this huge project that I am not really quite finished with, but it's definitely at a stopping point for now, and we'll see kind of where it goes from there. Um, Before I start, I just want to again express gratitude to CBAA for having me, gratitude to the Minnesota Center for Book Arts and the Grand Center for Arts and Culture, the Workshop for Independent Publishing, and countless other institutions, but most specifically, my friends and my family who have been my major support network through all of this. And This project, there is a lot of, I just want to preface this with the fact that there is a lot of, as an adoptee, I hold a lot of criticisms and sort of back and forth mixed emotions about adoption and that process. And a lot of this work is centric around grieving this identity that I have and coming into my own Latinidad. And I just want to preface it with the notion that it's none of that is because of a lack of gratitude. It's I'm really grateful that I have the support that I have that allows me to be critical of them. And I am safe, I am happy, I am healthy, I am well, I am so well supported in my very critical work that I'm doing. So thank you so much to those supports for being here, for listening. Um, so just to kind of give an overview here, um, my project is called Avila Omaira, and it is it's meant to look like a file folder, and it's meant to mimic my experience of what it's been like working with my adoption file. So when I was born, I was placed for adoption in Bogota, Colombia. Um, and that adoption was a closed adoption, meaning I wasn't allowed to search for my birth mother until I turned 18. And then when I turned 18, I decided to petition the ICBF, which is the Instituto Colombiano de Bienestar Familiar, which is sort of their version of like a CPS, Child Home Services situation there. I decided to petition to gain access to my adoption file. So in 2018, it might have even been 2017, I gained access to a PDF document that had about 200 pages of um, a lot of it's like birth records, because I was born in December of 2000, a lot of it is handwritten. Some of it looks like it's been typewritten. It's all like very, like if you look at just the quality of the photocopying, you can really tell that it was the early 2000s. A lot of it's in Spanish. And so this project has been my process of digesting this information and making meaning of it, and then also this pursuit of finding my birth mother, getting in contact with my birth mother, and reflecting on what it means to navigate these in-between spaces that I'm in. Most specifically, thinking about what it means to have two mothers, to have a mother that I grew up with and who raised me, and then have a mother who birthed me and brought me into this world, and to be rebuilding that relationship with her. So there's a lot going on in here. I think the most effective way for me to kind of demonstrate this is I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief tour here, but I also have digital scanned versions of it on my computer. So I'll do a little physical version first, and then we'll get into the actual digital version where you can see it a little bit better. But just kind of an overview here. Thank you so much. Um, so we have a lovely green file folder. Um, gonna try not to have anything spill out. Uh, this is a risographed photo of me as a baby in the orphanage. This is a letterpressed. I was able to through my residency at the Grand in New Ulm, I was able to fund some letterpress plates through Boxcar Press. Super fun to work with, very exciting. So I made a little letterpress print of my birth mother's uh they call it a cedula there, which is like an ID photo situation. Um, so got her in there. And then when you open this guy up, the my intention with this project is like I said, I'm at kind of a stopping point right now where I'm trying to take a breath and just relish in the fact that I've gotten so much done. But I think my ultimate goal is for this to be about 200 pieces. Currently, it's 30. Um, but so this is kind of what it looks like when you open it. This is an artist statement that explains the pieces' meanings kind of piece by piece there. Mostly because I really liked the idea of these file folders that have the little clasps in them. And I liked the idea of having the viewer have to physically lift things up and interact with them. So there's a whole collection of prints and things that we'll get into in a second. And then in the back, it's more of the same thing. Just a continuation of that there. Um, I skillfully printed out my birth name here, and I also put it on a little sticky tab here. So let's see. With that kind of general overview there, I think I'll go ahead and share my screen and then we can go piece by piece here. Let's see. So when I was making this, I thought about my intentions in terms of I thought about binding it, I thought about making it a larger, more constricted thing where there was an order in place and people had to follow that order when they read it and interacted with it. But in terms of how I am interacting with my adoption file, that's not how my experience has been. Again, I've had this for a little over 5 years now, and it is annotated, it is marked up. We have all different kinds of um, post-it notes and little flags and things there. And a lot of times I will just kind of flip to a random page and start digesting it from there. So it's a little bit more randomized than that. So I wanted my artist book to reflect that. Um, so for that reason, everything here is listed in alphabetical order, but that's not necessarily the order that if you purchased this from myself, or it's also on sale at the Minnesota Center for Book Arts right now. Um, if you purchased this, it might not end up in that order, and you could put it away in a different order, and I wouldn't be mad at you. Um, so starting, I guess we'll go in alphabetical order because that's making most sense to me here. Um, this is, I just called this one a baby. A lot of these pieces don't really have very, very meaningful titles. But this is an excerpt from a letter that my adoptive parents wrote me when they were applying to adopt me. So it was like a letter of intent. And the rest of the letter is in English, and it explains who they are and how they are residing in Minneapolis. They already have a kid that's adopted from Colombia, my older brother Tomas. And we um, and then there's this section that caught my eye. Again, the rest of the letter was in English, but this specific part was translated into Spanish. And I thought that was a little interesting. And I didn't like the way that they said a baby. Um, as an English major, I'm like piecing apart these sentence structures and things and thinking about the choices that they made to say a baby instead of your baby, instead of our baby, instead of the baby. So we will give a baby a warm, loving home.
Charlie, it's
And
very small.
what's that?
The image is very small. It's
Oh
like
dear.
fully open.
Uh, yeah, I
Oh,
think you have to double click, maybe. I'm guessing.
click. Let's see. Thank you so much. I'm gonna, let's see. Is that any better?
No.
Let's see. I can also do it on my, it might be better on Google Drive here. Let's
I
see.
think it's like I think just sharing like somehow the whole
Yeah,
pop
the
area
whole,
of that window and not when you open the individual images.
interesting. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna, thank you so much for bearing with me as I finagle this. Let's see.
That's
How is
great.
that feeling? Is that a little bit more legible?
That's much better.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, we will give a baby a warm, loving home and a supportive community of family and friends. Um, and then it is translated into Spanish there. And something about it felt, this one's a little hard to describe. It's a maybe a difficult one to get started with, but thinking about there's something about the sentence structure that made it feel like they were highlighting that this was not a possibility for something that my birth mother was able to give me. So that they could, I don't know, it felt like a replacement almost. Okay, let's see if we can finagle this. Can you see the whole thing? Is that
Yeah.
visible? Doing
Yeah.
good? We're rocking, we're rolling. Cool. So something that I'm still working on is learning how to express anger. I think a really big part of that is rooted in my being adopted. This like I have this very intense fear of abandonment that kind of ruminates into a larger pattern of people pleasing and things that happens. So for a lot of my life, my anger looked very pretty, and it still does look very pretty. So this was an art therapy exercise that I did a couple years ago, where I was told to draw something explosive, and even as I drew something very explosive, it looked almost floral. And I mean, this one's a literal pansy in the background. So it's still this very like tame, very muted, feminine um, image, even with this text on top that's like, this is what it's supposed to be. So we have this is anger. Let's see. This one is modeled after the words are modeled after. I think the book has the same name. It's a book from the late 90s, early 2000s called Are You My Mother? And it's about, I think it's a little baby bird that's running around to different animals in the forest and going up to them trying to find its mom. So he approaches an elephant and he says, "Are you my mother?" And she's like, "No." And then he walks up to a rhinoceros and he goes, "Are you my mother?" And she's like, "No." Um, and um, So I remember that book being read to me as a child, and I think specifically in this Latin American adoption culture camp that I went to growing up. And I think the moral of the story was eventually he still can't find his mother, but another animal takes him in. So I think a giraffe gets involved, and the giraffe ends up adopting this baby bird. And even though they don't look alike, they can still be family. So thinking about those words in tandem with this experience that I had, this was right around the cusp of when I found my birth mother. But it had gotten to a point that I had been searching for her for about 5 years again, and it was difficult to she was hard to find. My brother is also adopted. We're not related. But he found his birth mother, I think when he was 13, 14, 15, just by searching her name into Facebook, and she was like one of the first people who popped up. Whereas for me, I tried to do that and I wasn't really able to make that same connection. But that was my first kind of instinct was it worked for my brother, so I'm gonna try that first and see how that works. So I typed her name into Facebook and I messaged the first 10, 15 people with her name, and I said something along the lines of, "Are you my mother?" I said something like, did you give a child up for adoption in such and such year at this time in this place? And I don't think I got any responses from that. Understandably, when a stranger on the internet asks you if they're your kid, you might not answer. But it was still this moment of really trying to grasp at straws here. This was also my first time working with silver ink, which was really fun. A lot of this project is also an evolution of my building my skills in the book arts and building my skills in letterpress specifically. And then risograph and some lino cut stuff is in there as well, and some screen printed images as well. So I don't think I have these pieces in chronological order, but this one was made at the Grand in February of this year, so it's a little bit more polished than maybe some of the other ones are there. And that's something that I also really appreciate about this project is getting to see that progression so enmeshed in itself. So, yeah, this is just a general overview of the book there. This is a risograph print that I had a lot of fun with. This is something that I hear a lot as an adoptee, just the sentiment of be grateful. Thinking about how I started this talk with it's I think it's a people-pleasing pattern that I have, and it's something that I see a lot of other adoptees also echoing is this idea of if we are critical of adoption, we are being directly critical of the people that brought us up and being critical um, of that situation means that we are inherently ungrateful and unappreciative of everything that's been done for us. And maybe that's true. And that can exist in tandem with all of these other feelings. So I am grateful. And also, there are layers to that. That gratitude is layered. So that was fun to play around with there. This was printed at the Workshop for Independent Publishing in Minneapolis. This is a letterpress piece that this is a phrase that I think as I started so I always knew I was adopted. My adoptive parents never hid that from me. It was always I don't remember being sat down and told that I was adopted. I think it was always um, public information, very basis knowledge. And as I got older, I started to understand a little bit more of these nuances. And I think the first time that I started understanding those nuances was when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I remember throwing a tantrum. I don't remember what the tantrum was over. But I remember knowing that if I told my adoptive mother that I am not her daughter, that it would hurt her and that I would win this argument. I don't think I won the argument. I don't remember how it actually ended. But I do remember having that kind of sort of weapon inside of me that I knew that I could unleash. So this piece works on a bunch of different levels. So I'm also trans, and so navigating my trans identity in tandem with my Latinidad and in tandem with being an adoptee has been difficult thinking about. I am not the same person that my birth mother gave birth to. I am not the same person that I was when I was adopted. And both of those people came into this expecting a daughter, and they do not have a daughter in the same way. And so thinking about the statement in again in those kind of layers of what that means. Yeah. This is a risographed family photo. This is one of the first photos that my adoptive family took all together in the orphanage. So I've got my adoptive dad on the left, my older brother Tomas in the middle, and then my mom on the right there. And then I'm the little baby in the middle, obviously. This is a photo that I don't think I had seen very frequently, but I found it kind of recently, and I love this other angle of the photo, and I also think a lot about the composition of it. I think a lot about I look at this photo and I feel a lot of grief for um, this kid, this baby that was taken from her birth mother and put in these strangers' arms and doesn't really know what's going on. And a lot of my adoption reflection is also rooted in gosh, what's the book? The Primal Wound. I can't remember who that's by. But it's this really sort of controversial book in the adoption criticism sphere, but the general idea of it is that children, even if they are adopted at birth, like I was, have this very core sense of that abandonment. Before they were born, it was they connected with their mother in the womb, and being removed from them so directly after birth, it created this kind of tie, this severed tie, and this very primal wound. So I also look at this photo with a lot of grief and thinking about that form of primal wound. I'm not looking at the chat right now. If you want to say something, you can give me a shout, or Annika, if you want to be looking at the chat and give me a shout if you need anything. If
What
anybody
I'll
has
do,
a
Christina
question.
just dropped the author of the Primal Wound.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. Yeah, if any of you have any questions in the middle of this, or I'll try to not make this take the whole hour, so we'll have time for questions after too. Otherwise, I'll leave contact information too, and I'm happy to talk more about it then too. Um, so this I'm actually gonna stop sharing my screen and do as a book. So my brother and I are we are on amicable terms currently, but historically we have not been, just because we are very different people in a lot of ways. He's a lot sportier than I am. I'm a lot more artsy. I was better at school. He was better at making friends. So we never really connected the way that we really wanted to as siblings. And sometime last year, I reached out to him and I kind of aired all of the grievances, and he responded with another huge difference about us is how we approach adoption things. So because we don't have this very um, intimate relationship. I don't know a lot about how he's seeing things or how he's experiencing them, but my understanding is that he's a lot more grounded in my adoptive parents and the life that he's been given versus this kind of curiosity that sort of gnaws at me to find my roots and navigate what it means for me. So at one point, he told me, "Remember who raised you." And I didn't, that didn't sit well with me. I fully respect that as his experience, and that is something that he can be rooted in, but I don't think that is something that I fully agree with. So I made a little book about it. So if I remember who raised me, then so the title is Remember Who Raised You. But if I forget who raised me, then I can remember who birthed me. But if I remember who birthed me, does that mean I have to? I don't know if I bound this one correctly now that I'm looking at it. But the idea is this kind of cyclical nature of if I remember who raised me, does that mean I am forgetting who birthed me? If I forget who birthed me, does that mean I remember who raised me? If I forget who raised me, does that mean I can finally remember who birthed me? And thinking about these dichotomies and how they can both be true and they are both true. And so navigating again this kind of middle space that I'm at right now where I'm navigating these relationships with both my birth family and my adoptive family, and navigating what it means to have them both exist in my life in tandem with one another, and how that doesn't mean that I'm negating one or the other. And that was something that I found really difficult to explain to him in that moment. So this was a really good artistic comeback. I don't think I've shown this to him and been like, yeah, by the way, boom. So I don't think he knows this exists. But let's see here. Let's see. Not sure if I can rotate this guy. Um, Bear with me here. So this is uh, we're just gonna have to crank our heads a little bit at this one. This is another letterpress plate. Is the border here is based on a piece of stationery that my adoptive mother sent to the orphanage shortly after coming back to Minneapolis. With having adopted me, they're all settling in and things. And this is a blackout poem. I think the original, I don't know if I have the original somewhere, says something about how I'm like losing teeth and we're having a great time. Um, but I think it said something about how I love fruit too. But I decided to make this a blackout poem. And so I added this text on top of this plate again that I had made of the stationery. So it says, Elena is growing and changing. She loves herself in spite of this. So again, thinking about this, I also think a lot about with this primal wound theory, thinking about how there's um, this like inner child situation. There's this very small child inside of me that has this I have another piece in here that I'm sure will show up at some point that says the adopted child never grows up. So thinking about that as a reflection of this piece as well, thinking about how I continue to grow and change and evolve beyond what I thought I was going to be when I was very small, and reflecting on that. This is one of the first pieces that I made for this project. So it's pretty beginner letterpress, block letters. I was very proud of myself for having two different colors in here. This was maybe one of my first two color pieces that I had done on letterpress. But it says, in whose best interest, and it is supposed to be the other way, but I'm not sure how to do that on here. So, in whose best interest is something that again we think about in adoption critique, thinking about how adoption should always be in the best interest of the child. I think in a lot of ways, my adoption was in my best interest in terms of financial stability, in terms of the fact that I got to go to college, and all of these other luxuries that I wouldn't have maybe not have had access to. But again, thinking about the primal wound and thinking about this very core separation that I had from my birth mother, I don't know if that was in my best interest. And I think a lot of times in the world of infertility, there is a very immediate, well, you can just adopt. Like it's okay if you don't have, you can have you can't have kids, you can just adopt. Like just and it's seen as this very non-complicated solution when there's a lot more there. So there's that. Here's another view of the book here. Okay, this one I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. This is something that I've always said, or that I've said for a while at least. I don't remember how I started saying it. I think just thinking about processing grief in general, it's always come in waves for me. But specifically thinking about this project, thinking about how I've processed my adoption grief throughout my life. It's always come in waves for me, and to use that metaphor in kind of an extended way. Sometimes the what do you call that? The tide will be out for a while, and you don't really know when it's going to come back in, and then the next moment you know there's like this huge tsunami, and you're like really in it, and it's just very intense. And then this and then everything goes back out to shore, and it just kind of keeps happening like that, and it's hard to tell when it's going to happen, and so just kind of riding these waves is something that I've been uh, this project was a very large wave for a very long time. This project took me about a year to just print everything and get everything the way that I wanted. And again, I think I'm not finished with it. It's just that the shoreline has extended and the wave has gone out for now. The tide has gone out. And I think at some point it's gonna come crashing back in. But I needed to come up for air. And so, yeah. This is the little wavy doodle that I've got going on in the background is something that I do very frequently. Trying to see if I have a thing in my notebook here. I don't think I do. But if you ever see me doodling, it's usually something like this. This one is just called La Cumbia. It's based on the texture of a traditional cumbia skirt, which is a traditional Colombian folklore dance. I was in a Colombian folklore dance troupe here in Minneapolis for a couple years when I was a kid, and I remember this pattern really well. I remember loving like I always had this like fondness for gingham after that. Um, so gingham was a favorite pattern for a really long time because I think it just reminded me of that. And I love risograph and the texture that it gives this too. Just how it looks almost cloth-like is really fun to me. This is also a risograph print. It is a doily that says, "Love is not all you need." Um, so I've been thinking about this specifically in reflection of um, keeping and maintaining relationships with other people. Um, Thinking about specifically in while I'm in reunion with my birth mother, and thinking about reflecting on what it would look like if I hadn't been adopted, and whether or not that was a feasible future for me, and thinking about these sort of alternate timelines that I would have lived, um, and thinking about ultimately that's not what happened, and ultimately love is a very strong um, rooting part of something, but it's not all you need, and it's thinking about the fact that relationships are something that take work. And I don't know if I have anything more to say about that, but relationships take work. And that's not like a new concept, but that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is just there's all of these other variables too. It's not just love. It's thinking about specifically in the context of my adoption. It was a huge financial capital was the main component of it. So the fact that my birth mother did not have that financial capital, the fact that my adoptive parents did, and they were able to go to another country and purchase somebody else's child. Uh, Love wasn't enough for my birth mother to keep me, and um, yeah. So thinking about that there. Similarly, um, this is a conversation that I've had with some other adoptees, but thinking about where we place ourselves as adoptees in the kind of role of being a solution for, again, a solution for somebody's infertility and the grief that comes with that. I know again, one of the main reasons that I was adopted was because my adoptive mother is infertile. And thinking about the fact that aside from all of the maybe the very straightforward things of I am loved, I am wanted, I have been their child for 25 years. Um, First and foremost, I was a solution for somebody's infertility. And just by virtue of adopting a child does not absolve that grief. So thinking about my how I've held that responsibility for myself and my adoptive mother of holding that grief when it's not my responsibility. And thinking about how we want adoption to fix a lot of things and it doesn't. So I had a lot of fun with this one, and making it not fit on the page was very exciting. This is a little bit of a closer look at that boxcar plate of my birth mother's cedula there. Um, this one I had a lot of fun with too. This says, I don't know how to cut a mango. It's based on a poem that I wrote in high school when I was really kind of coming into reflecting on this feeling of unbelonging and not really knowing where I fit, and in between being not quite white enough, not quite Latina enough. And in the midst of that, I have this very core memory of trying to cut a mango at my parents' house, and really just kind of like I stabbed it a little bit at first, and then at some point I got really impatient and just went at it with my hands and my claws and just tried to kind of finagle the flesh off of the peel. It was a whole thing. It was very messy. But I remember getting really frustrated at not knowing how to do this very basic, very cultural thing. So I wrote this poem about it, and the poem it says something like, "I should know how to cut a mango. I'm supposed to know how to cut a mango. I don't know how to cut a mango. What are we doing?" Um, in a more poetic way there. Um, but yeah, this was fun to. This is a lino cut carving in the back there. And then I did a little bit of a gradient with the orange and yellow and green to try to get the mango color there. So each print is a little different, which is exciting. This one we're gonna have to tilt our heads against too. Um, This was part of the adoption file in its quotes there. But on one of the pieces of paper, it said child's original name, which is the name that I was born with, that my birth mother gave to me. And then there's child's new name, which is the name that my adoptive parents gave me when they finalized the adoption. So those are those names, and yeah, that's something that I've also been leading with in that's how we introduced this presentation, right? Is I was born Avila Omaira or Omaira Avila, and then I was named Elena Omaira Kelly Peg, and now I'm Charlie Andres, and that is a name that I chose for myself, um, and that's something that I am very excited and proud of. And maybe it will not always be my name, but currently that's what I'm sticking with. This is a letter that I was given by my birth mother when I was first born. So I had this all throughout childhood. I think my uncle is a Spanish to English interpreter, and at one point he translated it for me, and I have some of that translation here. So it says, actually, I don't know if this is the right one. Please excuse my insufficiency, but I know that in this home where you are going, you will have the comforts that I may not be able to give you. Someday not too far off, I hope to hear from you and how you've grown in your well-being. You will always be in my thoughts. Wherever you find yourself, please do not see me as an ungrateful mother. Perhaps this will be the best thing that God has given you, since you will receive much warmth and affection, which is most important. I hope that every special day is filled with joy and happiness. I will remember you at all times. I hope you are surrounded by love. I will miss you, but I know that one day not too far away, I will hear about your well-being and know that you will be a doll filled with surprises and happiness. I will not forget you because I have fond memories of you. So I had this letter again growing up, and that was kind of this grounding uh, thing while I waited to be able to search for her. This and her the picture of her cedula, the ID was all that I really had to work off of until I got this 200-page document. So that's what I had. And then in the actual artist book, these two pages are very, very separated from each other. And that's the only formatting choice that I made very consciously. But I found this page when I gained access to the adoption file, maybe even a couple years later, so 2020. But I think just the way that it's written, it looks like a second page the of the letter from the first page there. It looks like a continuation. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't asked her about it. I showed her the letters and she didn't really remember writing them. Um, but I don't have the direct translation for this written down. Um, but let's see. She says, I want to tell you something very strange. During your pregnancy, very peculiar things happened. Um, let's see. When the pregnancy began, I thought you were going to be a boy. Um, because you would always kick me and you wouldn't let me sleep. And I called you my, uh, what do you call that? Soccer player. Um, because you were always kicking me in my sleep. So she's saying, I thought you were going to be a boy. Let's see. See. I love you with all of my heart. A big kiss and a hug, Mama Nelly. Um, so that was really sweet to read as like a very recently out trans person in 2020 as well. Just thinking about reflecting on that. And she knows that I'm trans, and she's very I think she's all right with it. We're still, I don't know if she entirely understands if the translation really went through there, but she generally seems really accepting and excited about that. Um, but yeah, both of these pages were these are letterpress printed. So they were typeset and printed with MCBA's Spanish type that they have. They've got some little Spanish accent marks and things in this very small font only, which was a pain, but it really I tried to make it as equally spaced out as the letter was, but for that reason it sort of reads like a poem because her handwriting was a lot more spread out and these lines were shorter. Um, so this is another piece thinking about the kind of medium between the two spaces here. So I have the English and the Spanish both say the same thing. So they both say, do not worry, you are not forgotten, or no te preocupes, no estás olvidado. And that's something that I have said in quotation to both of my mothers. Uh, just this reassurance that I have not forgotten either of them, that I have not forgotten the life that either of them have given me, the role that they play in my life. And yeah, again, still navigating that in between space there. There's that closer picture of me. Again, I feel like you can kind of see this photo also makes me sad. Again, just thinking about that formation of the primal wound and thinking about this like very freshly newborn child that's like experiencing this separation and does not have the words for what they are experiencing. Um, this is kind of a redacted letter. I just eliminated all of the boring stuff and it just has the text that really popped out to me. This is an acceptance letter from the orphanage that I was born and adopted through. The orphanage was called Los Pacingos, which I think is Little Ducks. Um, so it says, enclosed you will find the placement that was assigned to you in our last adoption committee. And so this piece is called Assigned to You, or I guess I named it placement letter here. Previously it has been assigned to you, exclamation point. Um, Again, thinking about the language choices there is something that I've been ruminating on. Both the letterhead and the cute little stamp at the bottom are also letterpress plates, so those were really fun to get made. This piece is also supposed to be horizontal. It's called Rabbit, Rabbit, Footless Rabbit. So this is the Pat the Bunny Bunny with its leg cut off. So thinking about how people say rabbit, rabbit, rabbit to bring good luck. Thinking about the Pat the Bunny Bunny as this image of childhood innocence, and thinking about how people cut off rabbits' rabbit feet for good luck. And without thinking about how that impacts the rabbit. So I'm gonna leave that at that. This is more of this book here. Doo, doo, doo. But again, yeah, I think this one's more properly bound. It was a little hard to get the two back to back there, but the idea of forget who raised you, remember who birthed you. Uh, this one is called Rat's Nest. When I was specifically when I was very little, I had very ratty curly hair. I still do. It's less ratty now, and I think a huge part of that is finally understanding how to take care of it, and what that looks like. In the early 2000s, we did not have that knowledge as a collective community, as a family, and so most of the hairbrushing was this plastic wide tooth comb and this Suave Kids detangler spray with an octopus on it. It smelled like green apple. I can smell it very, very vividly. But this was the detangling method, and it was very early in the morning, and I remember my adoptive mother trying to kind of yank through, she would call it a rat's nest. She would kind of try to yank through this rat's nest and try to get it detangled there. And that's hard when you have a kid that's like wiggling around too. So, um, this was not intentionally made as grainy and blurry as it ended up printing. This is a screen print. But I do like that the iconography ends up feeling a little bit like this early 2000s computer icon type of thing, this pixelated thing. So I'll say it's intentional there. More images of that book. This is a collage that I made at the Workshop for Independent Publishing. This is a risograph print that features a picture of my birth mother cut out in what I think is her apartment or her house, wherever she lives there. Some of those little birds, again, from the Los Vicingos, um, what do you call that? The logo. And then some of her handwritten words and these little doodles that she wrote in the margins of this letter that she wrote me. And then the text in the middle says, I don't understand. I was explaining this project that I've been working on, this artist book, and she said, I don't understand why, if you have a family that is very beautiful, that loves you very much. So it's also been difficult to explain to her my reasoning of for what I'm what my intentions are with this project. So I wanted to capture that intermixed with this like very bright, very playful imagery that's kind of childlike. Yeah.
Charlie,
This is
is there anything in particular you want to end with or for sharing so we have a little time for
oh
questions?
my gosh, yes, absolutely. Let me see how many more we've got going on here. Hopefully that was the last. Let's see. Actually, I've got two more pieces. So this was the print that I mentioned before, based on Nancy Newton Verrier's The Primal Wound. These are my footprints. This is a little book that I am very proud of that I will actually stop sharing my screen for. Um, this is not the right version of it. Whoop. So I have two printed versions of it. Again, as I learned more about what it meant to print things and create things, things developed in different ways. So this is a little, I'm calling it a zine. I'm also selling it separately, but it is also included in the artist book. Um, but on the front, I have a very on the front, I have a very kind of rudimentary carving of my childhood home. And on the back, I have what I think like a very traditional Colombian casita would look like. And then using a Turkish map fold, when it opens up, it says, "Where are you really from?" Which is a question that I am asked a lot. I do have a second edition of it that does not have the casita on the back, but it does have a little bit cleaner of a lino cut of my childhood home there. So it looks a little bit cleaner there. And that was just me learning more about letterpress and understanding how that works there. But those are my final things. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlie. If you have any questions, feel free to turn off your mic and ask or put it in the chat and I'll help relay them to Charlie.
Yeah. I will actually open the chat so we can do it.
You have a message from Grant.
Thank you so much for being here, Grant. Glad to see you.
Charlie, just have you met your birth mom in person, or is it just through electronic? Just curious.
Sure. Currently, we have just met electronically. We haven't had a Zoom call or anything even, but we've texted and we've sent pictures of our faces, so we know what each other looks like. I don't look a lot like her, but I do look very, very similar to my biological aunt, which is really interesting to see. And I look somewhat similar to, I have a birth brother that she did not give up for adoption. And we look generally pretty similar there. Um, yeah, I'm hoping sometime in the near future to be able to go to Colombia and meet her. But to do that, I need to renew my cedula, which is again the little ID card. I need to renew my Colombian passport, and that process is strenuous and obnoxious. I have to go to the Colombian embassy that's in Chicago to do that. So that's a whole other trip that I'll do at some point, but it's definitely on my mind and I'm hoping to do that sometime in the near future. Yeah. Thanks for asking, Alex.
Awesome. Yeah.
See,
You have a question. You said you plan to create 200 pieces for this project. Do you have any in the works or on the horizon?
thank you so much. I do not currently. Again, I think I've been taking this very much needed break. I've been sort of re-grounding myself in remembering what it means to create and create not for a specific, very emotional project. I've been making other things. I've been making silly zines about anti-AI things, and a lot of other fun little projects and protest posters and all sorts of other things. But nothing has come back for this yet. But after this talk, I'm feeling pretty ramped up. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
You have many nice messages you should read in the chat as well, Charlie. Are there any final questions? We're at the end of the hour.
Yeah, if I could give a plug, um, buy my book if you want. You can purchase it through me. My email is charliehorsepress@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can reach out to me through Instagram. It's at charliehorsepress. You can find me on the internet otherwise through a simple Google search. I'm available if you want to stick around after.
I'm available if you want to stick around
It's on
after.
sale at the Minnesota Center for Book Arts.
It's on sale at the Minnesota Center for Book Arts.
But yeah, it's around and I would love
But
it.
yeah, it's around and I love it. I don't know why there's an echo, but thank you so much, Charlie.
Echo,
but thank you so much, Charlie. Having an echo and reminder, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central, we'll have Ryan presenting Tongue Twisted Experiments in Multilingual Book Design in Print and Beyond. Twisted Experiments in Multilingual Book Design in Print and Beyond.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here, you all.
Thanks for being here, you all.
I think we're heading out here.
Muy bonita, Charlie.
What is it?
Thank you, Omi. Thank you all so much for being here. Estelle, it's great to see you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Charlie.
Bye.
I'm going to end the meeting now.
Sounds good.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.